This Taf Yom Yerushalmi Yoma in the Art Scrolls edition, that Chav Beis Amav. If you have an Art Scrolls edition, then the easiest way to find it is around Chav Beis Amav, page 2. And we are where the bar is, in the right-hand margin. Over here, right here, where the top of the bar. And then the Vilna, that is on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, and it is 6 lines on the bottom. Last one in the line. Klishas Memes Hayin Kedoshin. Miyad or B'shas Tashmish. Klishas when they become kadosh. Immediately when you make them, or at the time that they're used. Inter Miyad Nicha. We're going to say they become kadosh immediately when you make them. That's good, because then they can be used when they put something. When you put something in that to be consecrated, blood or a mincha or whatever you're putting into them, it becomes kadosh, right? By being put in that keli. But anything which has tashmish, but you're going to say they become kadosh when they're used. So they have ke'echad hein kedoshim, and the coordinator puts in, and Pnei Moshe seems to put in as well, and it comes out later in the Gemara in a couple of lines. Echad hein kedoshim miskachim. Can they become kadosh and niskadish at the same time? Now the Gemara's question is that if you're not going to say it becomes kadosh when you make it must become kadosh when it's used for a purpose of kedusha. But that means you put some kadosh into them, then become kadosh. But if it's not yet kadosh, so then the blood or the mincha, whatever you're putting into them, can't become kadosh either. Right? So you're not putting some kadosh into them, unless you're going to say it happens simultaneously. But that doesn't make sense. How's it going to happen? So again, if you're not making it is not going to make it kadosh, so it must be putting something kadosh into it consecrates it. But the thing you're putting into it becomes kadosh because it's put into a kli sharis, and it's not yet a kli sharis. So how's it working? So the Gemara says again, intem biyad nicha, intem biyad shas tashish ke'echadem kedoshim umiskachim. Do they become the way the Quran says it, it becomes kadosh umikadesh, and it also is mikadesh what's put into it at the same time. How's that going to work? So the Gemara says, okay, let's look historically how this happened. How it's developed. Moshe. At the time Moshe, when they actually used the Shem and Mishcha, so obviously the Shem and Mishcha, the Shem and Mishcha was a mikadesh them. The Quran brings down the pasuk and Shechem mikadesh also, and then they put kodesh in them. But Bram Shlomo, when they didn't use the Shem and Mishcha, I'm not sure why not, but they didn't use the Shem Mishcha in time of Shlomo. Karas and Kedoshim Miskachim, when they become Kodesh and Niskadesh at once. Again, how's it working? You have to put some Kodesh in there, but the thing doesn't become Kodesh until it's put into a Kli Sharis. And when you put it in, it's still not a Kli Sharis. So the article brings down the reason why Ladoros is not Niskadesh, but with Shem Mishcha, it says by the Gemara in the Bavli Sanhedrin Tezayin Beis and Shvuas Tezayin says, "Vayim Shechem Kadesh Osam." The ones in the midbar were consecrated by Mashiach, but not only Osam, only those, not later on. So the Gemara says, I'll tell you how it works. Because Nisas and Loretz, when they came to Eretz Yisrael, Moshe, they put kadosh substance, something to be kadosh, I should say, in the kingdom of Moshe, right? And they used to take it out from the kingdom of Moshe, letoch shel shlema. And then they put in the kingdom of Shlomo, and that way it was already the stuff you put into the Kli Sharis of Shlomo was niskadish by something kadosh, which had become kadosh when Kli Shel Moshe being put into it. Okay, that's good. That's okay if they have came from Moshe Rabbeinu. Lo Shel Moshe, but we didn't have came from Moshe Rabbeinu. Kachas and Kedosh miskachim, same question, right? Does it work? Does it work simultaneously? How does it work? Same question we had before. And furthermore, when they came up from the Goyla the second time, maybe you could say, if there were Kain with Shlomo. But what if there were no Kain with Shlomo present? And Pashas there weren't, because the other Kain were taken away when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. So the how's it work? The word doesn't give an answer. So you don't have to read it. You can read it as a statement. You can read it that and see Korban Eder the way maybe also between Moshe. That Kachas and Kedoshim is Kashim. In other words, Enechami. It could work that way. But I think the Pashtum Shah is that it's a question which is not resolved. But I see Chaim also learns that it's a statement. So I guess you learned that before as well. It doesn't sound that way before. To me, it seems like they're all questions. But I'll read it again the way they want to read it. It says. Klishras Meisang Kedoshim Yad Mishum Shas Tashmin Tem Yad Nichol Tem Shas Tashmish Kechen Kedoshim Skachim Nichol Moshe Skachim Mishra Beram Shlomo Kachas. It doesn't work. I don't know. I think it's all. I tried. I guess you have to say the first few of them are questions, and then the last one is the statement. But I think they're all questions which are not resolved. The answer is that yes, but somehow or another, somehow worked at the same time. We have mechanisms like that in halacha, but the way the Gemara reads, it's lo mishani. It doesn't answer the question. Okay, going on to the next issue. Avan shchatz shem mace. You have stones which are quartered for the purpose of a mace. Asurim banoya. Now that I benefit from them because they're designated for the mace. Anything which is designated for a mace is also banoa for a regular person. The shem chayil shem mace. If you quarter them for the purpose of live and dead, then obviously it says specify which mutar and banoa. They're permitted banoa. Hazoy kli if they mitosu shel mace. If somebody tosses a kli in front of the coffin, the stretcher of it with the dead body, so then he's miyachided for the cover of the dead person, and it should be also banoa. So the Gemara says it depends where it lands. The toch arba amos also banoa. If it goes within the 4 amos of the mace, it's also banoa. Chol chutz arba amos mutzah banoa. But if it goes outside the 4 amos, it's still mutzah banoa. The Korban Eder on Osir says the Gomer Sham Egla Rufa. The way you know this also banoa is from Egla Rufa. The mace ksiva Tama Sham Miriam. Egla Rufa v'arfu Sham ha-egla. So it says by Miriam Sham, and it says Sham by Egla Rufa. My Egla Rufa bazman asura. Egla Rufa, the moment it's designated, it's asura banoa. After mace hazmana milsa, he's sold by mace. It's hazmana milsa, and it's also banoa. The hazmana by Egla Rufa, which as the banoa is Yuridasa Nachal Eson. Osarta, even when it goes down to the Nachal Eson, before its neck is wrung, it's very osabano. Now, one other thing before I go on, the Dalet Amos, it says Korban Eder. Obviously, there's no kinyan by mace, so that mace not kinyan, but Dalet Amos. But the mace teifis, he says mace teifis arba amos. The area around a mace, the 4 amos around a mace, is considered to be area relevant to the mace, and therefore, if you landed there, well, you intended it to land, but if you land there, then it becomes designated for the mace. Okay, now we go on to the next part of our Mishnah about the number of tefillos and kiddushin. So, so according to the Yerushalmi, there's an art scroll back on Chaf Aleph on the Aleph note 18, if you want to go look there, by Machlokes Bava and Yerushalmi about whether there are 2 Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim at the beginning of the Avodah or not. According to the Yerushalmi, though, there was one, according to Rabbi Yochanan back there's 1 Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim before the Avodah, then 1 Kiddush Yadayim for the Avodah the entire day, and 1 at the very end of the Avodah, and changing clothes 4 times in the middle. So that's another one, which time in the middle there, 2 Kiddush Yadayim Raglayim, 1 for Pshita, 1 for Labisha. So therefore you have 1 at the beginning for the original Labisha, 1 at the end for the last Pshita, and the 4 times in the middle, where each of which had 2 for the Pshita and Labisha. So altogether you had 10. Okay, so there were and of course there was 1 tefillah at the beginning. And then the 4th tefillah in the middle when you changed. So Nim say so merchamesh tefillah asar kiddushin teva mekarish bo bayom. Okay. U'minayish shnei kiddush yadayim raglayim akol tefillah. And how do you know that in the middle 4 there's 2 kiddush yadayim raglayim by each one, each the mikvah. Tamlar fashat for achatz v'lavash. Right. So the Korbanei explains, Pashat v'rachatz lavash, yitil kosev v'rachatz, benu pashat v'lavash, says v'rachatz between pashat v'lavash, yitin v'chitza l'bshita, v'chitza l'bisha. So it's like, Minei Seba Takum Vadarta, Takum Vadar Pnei Sogain, right? So there we say that Takum Vadarta is going on both of them. So here too we say that Fashat V'rachatz Lavash, Fashat V'rachatz V'rachatz Lavash. Okay, that's and absolutely that Rechitza is talking here about the Kishdayim Raglaim. Amar Lezer Shimon said he learned out from the following logic. He said, "Bedinu." It's a logical extrapolation. It's a little bit of a lengthy logical extrapolation. We're going to learn out here. Bedinu. Umay makus ain't ton tefillah. When you begin the avodah every day, you don't have to do tefillah. Midoraisa. Midrabanan. That's tefillah srach. We learned tefillah srach. So we require you to do tefillah, but you do need kiddush yadayim raglaim every day when you begin the avodah midoraisa. So makush ain't ton tefillah when you begin the avodah. Ton kiddush yadayim raglaim. Have the kiddush yadayim raglaim. Kan show ton tefillah here where you do require tefillah between each of the exchanges of clothing. So lokoshke she ton kiddush yadayim raglaim. So you still be chayav kiddush raglaim. So it says Gemara. Well, wait a second. I don't know two from that. It says Gemara tolcha mashevesa. Like daila baminadin yos kanidon. Take what you brought. Malan achos kolayom. Just like there on a normal day when there's only getting dressed in your big tikkun once. So it's one. Afghan here too, achas. Now the Gushas takes it the word kolayom, but here too only one for the putting on the new garments. How do you know a second one? Okay, here too Afghan achas. Why two? Tamulomar upashat es big day had bad. So it says because it says upashat es big day had bad. So the whole pasuk is uvar. Two psukim. Uvara o moed fashas b'dei abara shalavash b'ol kodesh v'yicham sham. V'rachatz es b'sor b'mayim b'makom kadosh lavash es b'gadav v'yotzav v'tzor v'slam b'chiber b'dov aram. So this is when he's changing from the big day love unto the big day zohav. So it's a weird lashon pasuk. It says fashas b'dei abara shalavash. Sheitam l'ma shalavash. Why does he have to say to wear, move the big day above the white garments which he put on? Would you have thought otherwise? It says to something else. Is he going to take off something that he wasn't wearing? What does it mean? Asher lavash. So I'll tell you. Hikish Pshita Levisha. A linkage is being drawn between Pshita and Levisha. Ma Levisha, just like Levisha is B'kiddush Yadayim Raglaim, we know because every day he has to wash your Yadayim Raglaim when he puts it on, and we already extrapolate from there for Levisha each and every time we change his clothing. But when it says Pashat Asher Lavash, that's telling us that the Pshita is like the Levisha, and it requires an additional Kiddush Yadayim Raglaim for the pshita, right? So again, malabisha in kelomen emar shalavash, he kish pshita labisha, malabisha kish daim raglaim, apshita kish daim raglaim. Okay. So Ramana says, Omer Ramana, let me stop chilufin. No, it only makes sense to learn the opposite. He kish labisha labshita. Labisha, really pshita is the primary kish daim raglaim, and we learn lavisha from pshita. Ma pshita b'kiddush yadayim raglaim, af levisha b'kiddush yadayim raglaim. So it's very difficult. I want to show you that with Yerushalmi Yoma here, which expresses difficulty, and he doesn't resolve it. I'm reading that with Yerushalmi Yoma, which in the film is on the page. I don't think it's on the page in the art scroll, so you'll just have to follow along. All right, let me start with Chiluf and Hikish Levisha Pshita, Hikish Levisha, Ma Pshita, V'chuli, Af Levisha, B'kiddush yadayim raglaim. Kasa Baal Siach Yitzchak The Sechitza writes the Zelshon of Tzar Chishuv. This requires some resolution. The Levisha Dafka Yafim Kavachomer, because it's specifically Levisha for Kavachomer. Mikidush Kol Yom. That if you Mekadosh every day, we're not required to do tefillah. Here we do tefillah. You certainly do Kiddush Time Raglaim. Lo Pshita, but we never have a drasha to learn an original Kiddush Time Raglaim by Pshita. Like we said, everybody agrees that the Kiddush Rishon is for the day is for the Levisha, which you're going to do, not for the Pshita. So how do you? What is this Ekesh starting from Pshita? What about the Korban Eda tries to give it a resolution? It says Zelosh. He says Ma Pshita b'Kiddush Time Raglaim. How do we know Pshita b'Kiddush Time Raglaim? Shneimar v'Pashat v'Rachatz, because it says Pashat v'Rachatz. Alvisha Kiddush Kiddush. So to Levisha's b'Kiddush Akan Varv and quote Lo Yadana my Kamar. I have no idea what he's talking about. So somebody is trying to know. To honor Rabbi Lezer Shimon. Now we're going to Lezer Shimon. The late stage drasha the Rebbe to Pashat v'Rachatz Kiddushin. The drasha had earlier we said Ufashat v'Rachatz Lavash. That's going on Kiddush. Rabbi Lezer Shimon doesn't hold that way. He holds that Rachatz in the pasuk is not going Kiddush L'Maglayim. It's going El Tfilos. Rabbi Yechon K'mosh Pirish Rashi B'Sulim Bavli. Ukemucha B'Yerushalmi came like Yerushalmi as well. Kaiminon. Is that pashut? Because the Yerushalmi tzorech le'iyun. So the Yerushalmi requires. It's not clear how Rabbi said wants to learn somehow that Pshita is the original Kiddush Time Raglaim. We're going to extrapolate Lebisha from that. Reb Chaim also asked the question. Also remains also remains a difficulty. How is this working here? Okay, now we go then to the next part of the Mishnah, which says in the morning he wore Pilusin, in the afternoon he wore Hinduyin. So the Gemara asks, why do you have to change to Hinduyin in order that the afternoon should be inferior to the morning? Vein Sheni Pilusin Yafa Mina Rishon Shel Hinduyin. Isn't the Sheni a second grade, a grade B, Pilusin, better than a grade A Hinduyin, and yet still it's lower level than the grade A Pilusin? So why switch to Hinduyin in the afternoon? Switch to a grade B Pilusin. So the Gemara answers Mishum Mila Deshama Perut. So the Korban Eda says that Hatana Kamashon Davar Beprotrot. He wants to tell us a specific detail. After Hinduyin Shari, that you can even go down to Hinduyin. It's not considered to be too inferior. But Koshkan Shesh Pilusin certainly go down to a second grade Pilusin. Okay, there are other interpretations here, and Reb Chaim changes the Girsa in the Gemara here. Not sure why he feels compelled to do so, but he really changed it to change and do Yofim Rishon Shel Pilusin. Okay, but anyway, let's stick with the Girsa over here. So again, the Gemara says Vein Sheish Pilusin Yofim Rishon Shel Pilusin Mishum Mila Shama Prot. Because he heard this that he wanted to tell us what he heard, that even Tinduyin is permitted, and certainly the Sheish Pilusin. Okay. Tamatina, by shemen by oil which used for menachos. So there's several presses of the olives. So harishon shebarishon, the first press of the olive. The Korban says rishon Hashem rishon yotzim min hazayis rishon kol min hagavo shabatzei hazayis. There's the first press from the olives which will grow highest in the tree. There's nothing superior to it. Hasheni shebarishon, the second the second one, the second press in the first olive, I guess in the highest branches, for Rishon Sheba Zayis Sheni, and the first press in the second olives, which I guess are the lower down branches. That's going to Korban Eid's Pshat, but according to you could also say Harishon Rishon means the first oil, which I think is the more Pashut Pshat. That was Chaim also the first olives harvested. The first are the superior Elamai the first of the first. Hashem Rishon, the second harvest in the first wave. Rishon, the first harvest, the second wave, shoving. They're equal. So they're not next muda, but then they're the next most muda. So then here too we say isn't the second wave of the first harvest superior to the first wave of the second harvest? And again, we say Mishum Shame Prute. Because he heard that we can put there. It's true, yes. The second wave of the second wave of the first batch is better than the first wave of the second batch, but still they're both equal. They're both on an equal level of hitter when it comes to using them for the menachas, and therefore we want to come and tell us that you can use either one. Okay, so just like here, we want to tell you that you can use. You don't have to use the pelusin sug bait. You can use Intuin. Also, there it's telling us you don't have to use the sheni shabishani. You can also use rishon shabishani. Okay, Micadun. So, why is it that the morning ones are superior? Rav Nachman Hashem Raimona said. Rav Nachman said, "Bad arba pamim." Says the word bad 4 times. I don't think the article brings down all the various different times. So we'll take it on faith. I'm saying Torah showing doesn't bring it down. By Mincha bad. By Mincha only says bad. So the once. So therefore the multiple bads tell us that we should have something which is more elaborate in the morning. Okay. What brings down the story? Maisa Rabbi Shmuel ben Piabi was one of the Kohanim Gedolim. He wore a garment made out of 100, which cost 100 mana, an astronomical amount of money. And he went and he used it in order to serve on top of the mizbech. Ma'aser Rabbi Eliezer ben Chasum. There's a similar story in the Bavli. His wife, the Bible says his wife is very rich, and she made him a very, very elaborate garment. This is Shavuot Kutonis P'shtei Ribo. He put on Kutonis which will cost 20,000, whatever it is, 20,000 mona. Went up to sacrifice on top of his back in this garment. For Rido Sechav Kohanim, and his brethren the Kohanim took him down. And the Bavli, for I call correctly, it's Masha, would not let him go up in it at all. Why? So it was such translucent thread. Shemi took a room that it looked like it was naked. So Maraso, what did he do? In order to in order to fix the situation. This is not brought down in the Bavli. Bavli sounds like he just didn't let him do it. Masa Milo so Maim, he filled it full of water. The Savav as his back showed upon me. He went around his back 7 times. So the Korban Eidah says, Moshe says differently. The Korban says, this one the Korban that closed up the gaps and the translucent thread, become Keba Levunis, and also diminished the whiteness, Vazachus, and the clarity. Shebo. So why go around 7 times? When I was about 7 times, so that after it made the garment a bit more dull, so it should get dry from the heat of the maracha. Should be because which are moist are apostle avodah. I think it's a chatzitza issue as well. The Chaim is very different. Chaim says he couldn't do that avodah. So all he did is full of water, and he went around his back 7 times and didn't do the avodah, just to show the garments, but not to actually do the avodah in them. Shatar so says he wanted to show the Kohanim that it wasn't really translucent, and so there he showed that at the end of 7 times there was still water on the outside. So it obviously was not. So on the contrary, it didn't dry off, and he wanted to show there was still watery on the outside to show that it wasn't translucent and it wasn't transparent, translucent, wasn't It was not. The fact that it stopped the water showed that it was not. That it should be okay to do the avoid in it. Could be that's what the Pnei Moshe means when he says, "Milio so my sees Be'ashir Pnei Abichin Luyatzu my mimena." Shkocha so over because it was really thick. Aroshimi over arbe yofei mode. Not sure how the end follows. So it shows if it's very thick, it's very beautiful. Mutzheves. Cookies over. It's like a thick glass. I guess he means that. Could be he means that. So could be he means something else. Not clear. In any event, that brings us to the bottom of the Amud. So the bottom of base on the base. So we will stop here for today.